Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our critical conversations discussions here. This is a real important show to me. This one's personal. We have a tremendous group of folks here that spend a lot of time every year, literally the whole year, preparing for the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial. That's coming up the first weekend in October. For me personally, one of the reasons I wanted to do this show is this is the 20th anniversary of when my guy, Captain Whitney Tehan Jr., was put on the wall after dying, obviously in the line of duty. Whitney actually died on me twice. That's a whole nother story we're not going to talk about tonight. But we want to just remember him as well as remember the other folks that are on there. Amazingly, I actually have 3 people on the wall. I'm just that lucky. So a lieutenant, that was when I was a young firefighter. He died in the line of duty from a heart attack. My brother from another mother, he ended up dying because of a medical issue. And then Whitney ended up having a heart attack as well in the middle of a call. So it's just real important that we remember why we have the memorial and talk about it, because I don't think everybody understands it. They see pictures, but they may not understand what happens here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to introduce our guests. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to 2001 and tell you a little bit about our adventure, and then how I met these. So we had lost Whitney actually in June of the fall of the previous year. That's how it worked. So, but we had a rough trip. We had a very contentious relationship amongst the fire companies involved. And then we also had a very dynamic family, which were, apple off the tree. So it took us 13 hours to travel 6 hours. We had people get lost. We had to go find them. It was just the weekend did not start well. So first thing Saturday morning, I meet our first guest, Matt Tobia. I am there as the company escort. All right, I'm there representing the city, escorting my family. Matt is in charge of all the escorts. That and his secret weapon, who's hidden off to the side here. So, 2 things I learned from Matt right away. First one was service over self. That was number 1. It's been number 1 since the day 1, and it will be number 1 in a couple weeks. Number 2 is it's going to be okay. No matter what you're going through over the next 72 hours, we're not going to let you fail, and we're going to take care of you and your family. And I had a very nice senior firefighter named John. I can't tell you his last name. I can see his face. And he literally held my hand, and in some cases dragged me around to make sure that my family had the best experience possible. And so unfortunately, I think John's passed, or he can't make it anymore. But for many years, he was the first person I looked for when I would go down. Second person I met. So as I mentioned, I'm having this really bad weekend. So it's 1:30 in the morning, and I think it would be Saturday evening going into Sunday morning. I can't sleep. I'm just having a terrible time. I look out, and we had just found out, or we had been notified earlier that day that the president was coming. Matt, what was that? 43? Is that Bush 43, Ronnie?
Bush 41.
Bush 41?
Oh, no, sorry, 43. You're right.
43, right, 43. That President Bush 43 was coming. So I look out over what we call the deck, which is where the families sit, and there's lights on. There's all these lights on, and it's 1:30 in the morning. So I go over there, And I hear this guy with a metropolitan, kind of a New York accent. He's got two whole sets of recruits from the regional fire schools, and the biggest trucks I've ever seen with folding chairs. And the trucks are loaded with folding chairs, and he's barking orders. So I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, you need a hand?" And he said something to the effect of, "What do you think?" So the next thing I know, he tells me, he says, "Hey, go take those guys over there and get those chairs out." So Ronnie, what, we threw 2,500 chairs?
Yeah, so, probably 3,000, but who was counting?
We threw chairs for hours. And it was the best thing I needed because it tired me out and I felt like I was doing something, right? So that was my first introduction to Ronnie. Later on, I was doing some stuff called Chief to Chief, and I got requested because I serve at the will of the foundation. If they tell me to go someplace tomorrow, I'm going. So they had asked me to come down to help work on a new program, and that's when I really met Ron for the first time. And he was the leader of the thing called the LAST program, Line of Duty Support Team, which are now in all 50 states, right?
Yeah, basically we're just about in 50 states, and it's the local assisted state team. That's how we came up with LAST. And the mantra is, if you have a tragedy, call LAST first. That's kind of the thing we coined.
So we got to know each other, and then unfortunately we had a dear friend who lost a firefighter, and they were doing the right things. It wasn't one of these terrible stories we read about, and they reached out to Ron, who reached out to the foundation, who reached out to me, and now he's one of my best friends, and we see each other whenever we can. And then I went for this job over here. I was looking to leave, and I got wind that there was some guy from a chemical factory in New Jersey applying, and he had a New York accent. I actually quit. I actually withdrew, and I said he'll do a better job than I can do there. All right, the next two guys, I got to do something fancy here, so bear with me. Here we go. So the next two guys, this is where I met them. All right. So they're both they're both 18 years old. So the guy closest to me, that's Tony Ruggiero. Tony, how do you say your last name? Ruggiero. All right. There's Tony escorting Kathy, my buddy's wife, and then there's Tim escorting up. Back in the day, particularly if it was inclement out, we would actually bring the families up to light luminaries, and it was just part of the families would have made those luminaries. So again, that's where I met these two as adults. Tony's gone on and does quite a bit. All right, I got to figure out what I just did. Oh, here we go. So Tony has been very, very instrumental in the Honor Guard. He is also very involved in the burn camps. And in the burn camp, right? We'll talk about. Not the burn camp. The family survivor. I'm sorry, what?
The Hal Bruno camps
camps, where him and his wife travel out and they just take care of kids for a week that have lost a loved one, and the foundation does just a tremendous amount of stuff, and also, Tony's one of these guys. He'll be going to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. He's part of the transport team for the flags that have been flown at the Capitol. If there's about anything, including putting bricks into the ground, Tony's been there for that. And then last but not least, I think you're a nephew from another brother. I don't know what to tell. So the most important part of this whole thing every year is the survivors. And survivors come to us in all different shapes, forms, nationalities, but also levels of tenderness and levels of grief. And so Tim came with his mom when my world was rocked, and Kenny had died in the line of duty and it actually started on a Christmas Eve, and then after successful operations, very long operations, he ended up passing away the following week. It rocked the state of Connecticut. It rocked our region. It rocked the Hartford region, where his dad was a fire chief in Windsor Locks, and the two of us did more classes for the Connecticut Fire Academy. As a matter of fact, if one of us was there, the other one was probably there. That we could finish each other's sentences. That's how much time we spent together. So what I want to do is, Ronnie, let's start with we're going to start with you. So this is 20 years for me. This is 40 years for the academy. I mean, for the foundation, right?
I got to get unmuted here. So, what's happened is in 1981, they started to have some form of formal ceremony to honor line of duty deaths. The foundation didn't get formed till 1992. Matt, it's 1992. You shake your head, yeah. So 1992 was when the National Fallen Firefighters was developed. But they started having some sort of formal ceremonies to honor line of duty deaths in 1981. So it's 40 years since we're honoring our line of duty deaths in a formal way. Okay. Then in 1992, Congress passed a bill that recognized the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation and the monument in Emmitsburg, and the plaque on the monument has President Reagan's signature on it. And even through all of that, with the congressional assistance, the foundation is still a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So that's the history of how long we've been doing it, kind of since '92. This is my 23rd year. I was the operations chief for 13 years, and I've been the Memorial Weekend Incident Commander now since 2018. And I succeeded Chief John McGrath, who was formerly from Philadelphia and then from Raleigh, North Carolina. So the thing about the weekend, the Memorial Weekend, is it's one of those things. It looks easy on television, when you look at something, but there's a million moving parts. And just like they always talked about the Macy's parade, the day after the Macy's parade, the people in Macy's have a meeting and start talking about the parade next year. We do the same thing. We get the command staff together. Our command team is phenomenal. I'm surrounded by all A-list people, Matt Tobia being one of them, of course. And there's nothing we can't do. They've thrown the president at us a couple of times. They've thrown storms. They've thrown hurricanes, weather. Now it's COVID. We're going to get through next weekend. We're going to do it, and we're going to do it right with the COVID restrictions. And we're just waiting for locusts to hit one year, but we'll handle that too. So all the plagues, we're going through all the plagues, but we got the right people in the right spot. There's no doubt. But we have 25 individual operating units. So Tony's active with the Connecticut Honor Guard and then the National Honor Guard that shows up to do the ceremonies. Okay, so the Honor Guard Pipes and Drums is one unit. They're the biggest unit we have. They usually run somewhere between 400 and 800. Okay, so they're like a little army unto themselves, and I'm glad I'm not in charge of those guys, but they do a phenomenal job. I will tell you, Nick, that when the families write to the foundation after the weekend, they talk about two things. They talk about closure, which is very important to us who are involved with this, and they talk about how impressive that 400, 500, 600 piece Honor Guard and pipes come walking across that field in the morning. It's phenomenal, and that's after a whole night of imbibing in adult beverages, and they're that good after a night of that.
Allegedly.
But I always say, imagine if they didn't imbibe the night before, how damn good they would be. But they're phenomenal even with that, and we appreciate those guys. I make fun of them. I call them the guys with the shiny shoes. Ironically, and Tony, you're going to love this. At my new job where I am now, I got my Class A's the other day, and they gave me a pair of patent leather shoes to wear with them. And I said, oh, man, I can never make fun of them guys ever again. So that's that. However, so there's 25 individual units, and the command staff, we meet just about every other month throughout the year, through the winter and into the spring. And then we, as the summer rolls around, we bring in the 25 committee chairs, so to speak. So like this past weekend, Sunday, the command team met, and then Monday, everybody gets together and everybody reports out, and we have, and for the weekend itself, we set up a full-blown command center. in Building S on the National Fire Academy campus, and we are live from Wednesday right through Monday. And the 25, I'll just give you an example. Of course, Matt runs our uniformed escort gang. There's the pipes and drums and honor guard. We have a unit that takes care of parking, traffic, and on the campus, parking and traffic and safety. We call them the SST, safety and traffic and all that stuff. So you have that. And then we have people just in charge of putting the memorial book together. The family gets a nice book with all the pictures in it and all the stories. There's a Memorial Weekend book group. And transportation, they're huge. They're hitting 4 airports and a train station all day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, picking up families, getting them to hotels. There's a hotel staff, just check-in, there's credentials. So these 25 units, we have every unit has an SOP, a written SOP, and every year we do a full-blown IAP for the weekend. We have a recently acquired a new tool. It's called Smartsheet, and Smartsheet is kind of like a Excel spread, but as
steroids.
As I put the command data in, and Matt puts his data in for his group, and all 25 units put in, right? It all marries up, and so if you put down that I have 5 meetings during the day, and Matt has 2 meetings. You hit the button and all those meetings line up in a timeline for us. So it's a great tool. We've been using it for a couple of years and we're going to continue to use it. And from that, we extract our IAP. So it's a pretty well-oiled machine. Everything seems to gel. The command gang itself, most of us have been together since 2002. And 2002 was significant because, as you know, Nick, we honored the line of duties for the year before. So because of 9/11 plus the deaths around the country, so 2002 rolls around and now we have 445 firefighters we have to honor. Emmitsburg wasn't going to be big enough, so we went to Washington, D.C. and used the arena where the Washington Wizards play. At the time, it was the MCI arena. I think now it's maybe the Verizon Center or something. So we used the arena because of the size and magnitude. And that's when most of our command team kind of got together and met for the first time. And we've been together ever since. So we know each other's moves, which strengths, weaknesses. You know, I know exactly when Matt's going to start to cry on Saturday afternoon. He knows when I'm going to start to cry on Saturday night and all of that stuff. So we have the A team and all of our people who work this weekend, whether they're in a logistics team, an operations group, whoever, they're basically picked people. They're handpicked based on their reputation and their attitude. And because something like this, you're all in or you're out. And some people over time forgotten why they came to the weekend. And we tell them, thank you for your past service. And we don't invite them back again. We only want the 18 people at this thing because it's so important. And we want to make sure those families are so well taken care of and they can start to get some of that closure and everything else that goes with the weekend.
One of the interesting things that Matt always covers in the escort briefing is, so this happens in October, right? So if that person, we'll use this year, 2020, we'll use last year, 2020. So if that person died on January 10th of 2020, they got the whole year, the 2020 year, and then they've got another 10 months. Right, so they might be on the end of the train, on the end of their trip. Right. In fact, they're probably tired of memorials. They want to get in, get out. They love it, but they don't. It just turns everything on. On the other hand, you may have a guy that died on December 5th of 2020. They're still raw. Right. They're still getting requests to go to fundraisers. They're still working through the dynamics, and it really does take. I don't care if you're the guy pulling the wires, or the guy showing which way to go to the bathroom. Everybody there is there for one reason.
Yep. And we have people doing that. We have logistics folks. We have people moving bottled water, and we have a team on Sunday for the television crew and the cable crew, and they're one of our operations teams. They're assigned to those guys, and they're moving cables throughout the whole thing, and they're crawling on their bellies, making sure nobody trips and all that stuff.
And the cool thing is those guys happen to be Mohegan tribal guys many times, but that's their deal. I mean, they talk about that. They've already talked about it. They're all pumped up to get ready to get there.
Right. Yeah, they're from your neighborhood where I was for 5 years. But I will tell you that the dedication of the volunteers that come, the staff, and when I say volunteers, it's not doing being a volunteer firefighter. It's the volunteer career, tribal. We got industrial guys. But everybody, they step up to the plate for the foundation, for the families, and for the weekend to honor our fallen. The thing is, what you just talked about, Nick, about how close or how far away. This year we got people coming from 2019.
Yeah,
you couldn't do it last year. So now you got people who their firefighter might have been lost 2.5 years ago. And again, they're just coming to terms. And of course, listen, our ceremonies are very touching and they're very well done. We have a terrific producer that puts this on every year, Chief Curl from Indiana, and he puts eons of time in to make sure it's perfect as it can be. And it's going to open up the old wounds. It has to. It's touching for guys like us, who didn't lose a guy last year or the year before. Imagine what it's like for those families. But they seem to get some closure. So we come back. We come back every year, and we'll continue to come back as long as it takes. And I got to tell you, Nick, the people have said to us, and it's kind of interesting, what happens if there's no line of duties one year? And God, wouldn't that be incredible, right?
And it'd be a big party.
Exactly.
Just go to the outhouse and drink, right?
We go to Emmitsburg, and we're gonna drive in on Friday and crawl out on Sunday. Celebrate.
Absolutely.
So we know that's an improbable thing that would happen, but we
and we were down to 6. So we were down to 60, right? We added it now, but again, the firefighters from New York who are dying of 9/11 illness, so they're being recognized appropriately. So that kind of kicks, because that's 20 to 30 people a year. So let
me comment on that if I can, for the benefit of your audience. After the foundation, along with the federal government, started to recognize the FDNY guys who were dying from cancer, from World Trade Center cancers, that kind of opened up the door. It cracked the door with the Department of Justice and the public safety officers benefit people, where they recognize that as a line of duty, and they're paying the families the line of duty death benefit. So that cracked the door open. So then the foundation approached the federal government and said, well, what about all the other firefighters who die of cancer every year? So what they agreed to was that we would recognize, the board of directors of the foundation agreed to recognize firefighters who die from cancer that are recognized by that individual state. Okay. So while our line of duty numbers 2 or 3 years ago hit 58, our all-time low since we're counting.
Right, I'm saying.
While we had, I don't want to say we were happy about that, but it's the best year we had in forever.
I was happy.
You were happy for a moment because it's the best year we had forever. And then you realize it's still 58 guys lost or gals lost, and their family. We still have 58 families who are suffering. So it's kind of this is great, but it's not great, kind of thing. So we know we got work to do. So we know we still got work to do, But overall, it's been. By the way, it's been a pleasure working with you as well, Nick. I know you had nice things to say about everybody on the top row here, but you're a dedicated guy, and we appreciate all the stuff you've done for the foundation as well.
Well, thank you. The one thing I didn't want to talk about tonight was COVID, because who knows where that's going to go, and we don't even want to speculate. So I'm going to turf over to Matt. And so Matt, why don't you tell me I don't know what an escort does. What's an escort do?
So thanks so much for the opportunity to spend some time with a quality group of human beings. I really appreciate the chance to be here. The one thing that about the families of fallen firefighters is that they are on a journey to find a new normal. They can never go back to the life that they had before their firefighter died in the line of duty. And so the only path for them is forward and finding that new normal that comes after that and learning to live with that. And as important as the ceremony is, I think one of the things that's really unique about the Fallen Firefighters Foundation is that they are really focused on the families, and that the weekend is so much more than just the National Memorial Service, which is incredibly important and critical. But I think what really resonates is that oftentimes, for the very first time, fire service survivors, fire hero families are around other fire hero families, and because they've all walked the same path, they have so much in common and share a common bond, and they know oftentimes for the first time that they are not alone and that they will never be alone, because they are part of a terrible, horrible, beautiful family that is unique unto those that have sacrificed a loved one. And so, the mission of the foundation is not just to honor firefighters who die in the line of duty and honor their lifetime of service, but also help those families on their journey. And I think that's what makes the foundation so unique. And so, for the Memorial Weekend, you have, hundreds of family members who come to a very foreign place. Oftentimes, the traveling to Emmitsburg is a journey unto itself. It's not located close to an urban center. Folks may or may not know that the National Fire Academy was created out of America Burning, which was a seminal blue ribbon report written in the early 1970s, commissioned by President Nixon and the White House, and supported by Congress. And one of the things that it recommended was the creation of a National Fire Training Center for the future leaders of the fire service. And so, of course, the Congress, in its infinite wisdom, looked around and picked a location that was nowhere close to any urban center at all.
I think that was by design, actually.
Yeah, it is. It is by design. But, it's Emmitsburg is a beautiful, beautiful town. The National Fire Academy is located on the campus of what used to be St. Elizabeth Seton College, which was an all-women's college, right up the road from Mount St. Mary's, which at the time was an all-men's college, before those two schools joined together and became co-ed. But the National Memorial is located on the campus of the National Fire Academy. So these families come from all over the country, oftentimes coming from, thousands and thousands of miles. We've honored firefighters from protected territories of the United States, including Guam and other very small islands in the Pacific, where firefighters have died in the line of duty. And these families are coming as far as they can to have their loved one honored. It's scary. It is incredibly intimidating. It is anxiety producing. And so one of the things that the foundation very intelligently identified was that they wanted a group of fire service personnel to guide these families through the weekend. And so the family escort section's mission is to ensure that while the families are present in Emmitsburg for the National Memorial, that they are cared for, that they are wrapped up, that they have someone who they can look to no matter what, and that individual will be responsible for guiding them through the weekend. And so that's how the family escort section, came about. And it's, it really has grown up over time. Interestingly enough, I'll tell you a little bit about the history. There was a point in the past when the foundation staff would go through the classes at Emmitsburg and ask firefighters attending classes to please, on their weekend between 2 weeks of classes, please come and be a family escort, because that was the only way that the foundation was able to get fire service personnel to get engaged with supporting the families of fallen firefighters during the national service. And it was very profound what the original staff of the foundation did. And when you think about the fact that when the foundation was created in 1992, there was literally one full-time employee at the foundation, one. And of course, over time, that's grown up. But now the family escort section is an extremely robust component of the Memorial Weekend. In a typical year, the family escort section receives in excess of 400 applications from individuals who are interested in serving as family escorts. And just to understand how unbelievable the commitment is from this group of people, these individuals are 100% responsible for their own transportation to and from the memorial, oftentimes coming from all over the country, flying in on their own dime. They are responsible for all their own meals. They are responsible for their accommodations. Oftentimes, they are required to take their own leave or have to work swaps or take time off of their full-time jobs to come and be part of the Memorial Weekend. And that's just to get there. Because once you get to the Memorial Weekend, the demands of being a family escort are profound. This is a weekend where, and you're right, Nick, we say it, right? It's service above self. It is putting others ahead of the individual in the service of how we would want our families treated. And I think that's really what we talk about. When we talk about the mission of the people that are involved, I think we know that there, but for the grace of God, we go. And as a result, we feel compelled to take care of the families as we would want our family to be taken care of. And we know that would happen. Like, I know, in my heart, as I think all of us do, that if we were ever called upon to make that supreme sacrifice, that there would be a group of people who would ensure that our families were taken care of. And
we've had that. We've actually had escorts, and were those tough. We've actually had escorts that died in the line of duty, and those weekends were just all the more heartbreaking.
Hey, Nick,
and I'll give you an example of that.
2 days
Go
after,
ahead, Chief.
2 days after Memorial Weekend in 19, we had a guy from Virginia, I believe, right? Was he from Virginia or Maryland? I don't remember, but lieutenant. He got killed on a 2 days later.
Oh, we knew that. Tony knows him.
Yeah, we had pictures of him walking across the field doing his thing 2 days later. So it was truly one of our own. I mean, they're all our own, but this was truly one of our own from the Memorial Weekend. So it's devastating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and let me give you an example of the sacrifice, okay, that these family escorts and this is probably the most profound sacrifice that I can tell you about. So Carol Jones is a fire service survivor. She's a retired lieutenant off the job in Fort Worth. Her husband was shot and killed in the line about 60 days before he was supposed to retire from him being on the job. He stopped at a motor vehicle collision that he thought was, just an MVC. Turns out to be a violent incident. Guy comes out of the vehicle, shoots him, kills him. All right. Now, Carol has just given a tremendous sacrifice, right? So she takes all of that pain and turns it into service. She is on the command team for the family escort section. So in true fashion, what does she do? She drags her brother Charlie to the Memorial Weekend and says, "You're going to be a family escort," which is great. And we're all excited about, the fact that Charlie's involved with being a family escort. He becomes a family escort. He's a family escort for 3 years. Last year, dies of a heart attack. Now she's lost her husband and a brother to the fire service. She still comes back.
Yeah.
She still wants to give for others that are traveling this journey. There's no words. There's just no words.
I think one of the important things, and then I want to swing over to, actually I had a question. Well, hang on. Let me get this straight in my head first. I'm a little excited. So the first comment that it works through the whole system, whether it's an escort that has a problem or an honor guard has a problem, all of us at any given moment, a family could walk up to us or an individual could walk up to us and say, I have this need. I need to go back. I can't do this. I need to go back to my hotel and lay down. And it could be to Tony's guys. It could be to escort, whatever. I need to do that. It's not the first time. We got this. Bing, bang, boom. Plan number 29-7. Go over here. Next thing you know, in 10, 15, 20 minutes, they're on their way back to the hotel. And then when they're ready to come back, they give a call and they get brought back. The other thing that's interesting is that firefighters live very complicated lives. And so there's been a lot of things we've had to do just to keep the peace, to make sure that everyone involved in that firefighter's life gets to have that moment where they see that person recognized. The other thing I just wanted to briefly mention, and then may ask Tim about, is there's also that people may not know, is on Saturday morning, the foundation has this incredible process that goes on where there's group meetings of like needs. So I've had several fire police that were in their 60s that I've escorted their families. And then we've also have these young smoke jumpers or these brush guys where their wives are 20. So putting this 60-year-old lady and the 20-year-old lady, they've shared something, it's not going to be the same. So they take up like all the classrooms, they'll have all the rooms in various hotels tied up, and they'll have these work sessions with professional counselors in there, and it's set to the needs of the survivor, not the needs of the foundation or the needs of the workers. It's set up so that the individuals that need to be with like-minded or like-aged or like-experienced are together. Tim, did you guys get to take advantage of that when you guys were there?
No, we didn't. When we went there, it was such a beautiful weekend that was our third memorial that we had to attend, because we had to go to Goodfellow for the military, and then the IFF one in Colorado. So by the time we got to Emmitsburg, it was just kind of quiet, and we just wanted to just be. It's just my mother and I, you know what I mean? Yeah. So we kind of really just kind of like stayed to ourselves, and we're kind of like just low key for the whole weekend. But there are. I mean, the services are incredible. I mean, it's amazing, like what is really offered.
We actually take kids and put them all the way. Well, there's also a whole division that does not associated with the weekend that do college tuition.
Scholarships.
Thank you. Scholarships. All right, Tony. Now we've heard what about a great job that the escorts do. What are all those guys all dressed up? I've been told you're there to protect me. You're there to protect us.
Robbery of which one's the varsity squad? Is it escorts or honor guard? So that's still up in the air. But the honor guard, there's so many facets that are part of the honor guard for the weekend, and really it starts back pretty much around August time is when we'll actually there's a contingent of us that go down to Emmitsburg. They actually every flag that is given to the family is flown over the U.S. Capitol, and they're given from the legislature to the foundation, and then every single American flag is flown over the memorial by uniformed personnel in Class A uniform. It's kept up on the flagpole, ceremoniously brought down, saluted, and then the next day we fold all of them. So all the flags that are being given to the families have flown over the U.S. Capitol, they've flown over the memorial, and they've been folded by fire service members. Now, it's not just as simple as, say, a Boy Scout ceremony where it gets folded up and done. These get folded and refolded and folded again until we feel that they are perfect. To the point where we're taking cuticle scissors out and cutting any wayward strings off of these flags, and just making sure that they're absolutely perfect before they go, because we know the meaning of them. We know that they're being given to the families. So that's kind of where it starts. From there, and this is honor guards from all across the country. There's pipes and drums from all across the country. Actually, Tim's participated as part of the New London Firefighters Pipes and Drums as part of the mass band. So there's a whole set of tunes that gets put up online so that way everyone's playing from the same sheet of music, literally. And you have a few hundred pipers and drummers that are coming that have never played before, possibly, that come together, and they sound absolutely beautiful at all the different ceremonies. And same thing with honor guard members that, you know, they haven't necessarily done events before, but we work seamlessly with each other. Hey, this is how we're going to do it. On the Thursday before, so this coming Thursday, we'll start with a wreath laying ceremony, you know, known soldiers. So that there's a lot that goes into that. So there's typically a couple representatives from the foundation, as well as a returning survivor family or fire hero family that actually get to walk down onto the tomb to lay the wreath. And then there's hundreds of firefighters that'll be up there that will salute when the tomb guards ask us to salute. We march on, we march off. It's just a very beautiful ceremony. And that continues on to Saturday. On Saturday, what we'll end up doing is there's multiple events that happen. There's practice that happens in the morning, so everyone's up there at the crack of dawn and start practicing on the actual to get ready for it. Once we practice how we're going to march on, how we're going to march off, when do we salute, how do we salute, is it a snap salute or is it a ceremonial salute, what are your cues? And we practice and practice and practice. The honor guard members that are going to be marching in with the American flags and giving them to the chief presenters who are then for the families, they have a whole practice. They're given the name of the firefighter that they represent with that flag. We even go as far as saying to them, go home and Google that person, find out what it was that about them to hopefully kind of bring that home a little bit. On top of that, the Red Helmet Society, the motorcycle group, they have a wreath laying ceremony during the afternoon on Saturday. So there's a whole honor guard contingent and pipe and drum contingent for that. And then the part that I think is the best part of the weekend is the candlelight vigil. So depending on weather, it could be outside. When it's been bad weather, it's been over at the Basilica next door, which is absolutely gorgeous. That's where that picture was that you posted earlier, was inside the Basilica. The troops are given the opportunity to luminaries. And then we light that ahead of time. We used to actually, as part of the ceremony, they would announce the person's name, show their picture up on the screen, and then we bring the family up. That's that picture that you showed earlier. To make the time go a little bit quicker, the families get there a little bit earlier. They're allowed to go see all the luminaries and light them. There's honor guard members that are up there to help them light them. And then there's songs that are sung by different recording artists, as well as fire service members and actually returning survivors that will come in and sing different meaningful songs. They have different, they'll read different stories about certain individuals that are getting honored that year to kind of bring it home a little bit. That's Saturday night. And then Sunday's the full ceremony of the actual memorial service itself, where you have different dignitaries that will come and speak. They'll read stories about different survivors that are being honored that year. Then each name is read aloud and picture shown up in front of the whole crowd. And then the family is brought up and is given that flag that's been folded meticulously by honor guard members just a month before. They're given that. They're also given a medallion from the foundation and a rose. And it's just a very moving ceremony. To start that off, once the family's there, the honor guard, the pipes and drums play and march on the honor guard contingent. As the families are coming in, they're greeted by, they're flanked by a sea of blue. So as Matt was talking about, we try to embody them and try to let them know that they're not alone and that we're there for them. And that's kind of the symbolism that has is you just walk in, it's just a wall-to-wall uniforms to hopefully embrace them and let them know that we're here for them. Because some of these people, and it's sad to see, some of these people don't have a great relationship with their host department. There's a fire service, some promises that we don't end up. So this is an interaction that they don't get at home. It was very, very good that we're able to provide that for them.
And it really is that the sea of blue. I had forgotten about that. Thank you. So, as a general rule, we try to have all the survivors enter in one particular entrance. And so, as Tony is mentioning, there's literally everybody there that's a part of his team is lined up shoulder to shoulder, and then the escorts are walking the families through, usually with the lead, right? Walking them through and then getting them to their seats. Yes, sir, Ron.
Yeah, you saw my hand. That's nice. I just want to mention something that Tony said. You know, that all the flags are flown over the Capitol and then taken down and then flown over the monument. It is done with such dignity and respect by those guys, unceremoniously. There's no press coverage. There's no crowd. There's nobody around. They're not doing it because they're being watched or there's glory or there's fame. These guys do it, and they've done it in the pouring rain, and they've done it in the cold, and they've done it in a 95-degree weird October, or they do it in August, actually. So they've done it in 100 degrees, and they just go and do this thing. It actually, every year, I'm absolutely put back that these guys just go out there on their own time. They spend a whole day or two at the Capitol raising that flag up and down, folding them meticulously, like he said, and then they take them all and they unfold them again, and they go to the monument. So those families know that flag flew over the nation's capital and that monument, and they just do it, like I said, unceremoniously. Can't say enough about our honor guard people who just do that on their own volition to make sure. And as you know, Nick, we've had the honor flag, I think since 9/11, the honor flag, and they fly it out at the hotels. And many years, or over the monument a few times, and they held vigil all night. They wouldn't leave it out of their sight, these guys. They set up a camp in front of that monument while everybody was sleeping, and they guarded that flag up on that pole all night, around the clock. So you can't say about these guys, but they do a great job.
And Tony, how many? There's a whole ton of them, because I think how many honor guard folks are there all together?
As you said earlier, there's hundreds, and they're coming from all across the country for this. And just like Chief Tobia was saying, most of us we're not being paid to be there. We're taking our own earned time off of work. Some people are lucky enough to maybe get a admin day or something like that from their chief or from their union to go. But people are taking time off of their own, full-time jobs. And people that are volunteers are doing that. No one's getting paid to be there. We're paying for our own hotels. We're paying for our own travel, lodging, food, everything. So people are there for the right reasons to do the right thing. And it's not even just us. Matt was talking about before, survivors helping survivors. If you look around any of the videos of Memorial Weekend and stuff, if you see people walking around with the red polo shirts, those are returning survivors. Those are fire hero families that have been honored in previous years that, as you said, they've walked the walk, they've talked the talk, they've been through this before. They come back every single year for this weekend to see each other, to see other stars, but to help hold the hand of the new people to kind of embrace them and say, hey, listen, I've been there before. Let me help you out a little bit. Let me show you what you're going to be going through. And it's just awesome to see them come back every single year and be involved. Even if it's just at the store selling the coins and the shoes, everything for the weekend.
How about the crew that does the rubbings, right? And just there's always, and when we were on the road with taking care of our own, we had a survivor with us, and then some of the other programs, there's always a survivor there to talk about from their side. So I want to slide back over to did you have anything else, Tony? Okay, I want to go back over to Tim. So what did you like better, the candlelight night or the main event on Sunday morning? What did you guys enjoy the most?
Well, I think we're a little biased because we had you, we had Tony, and then we had Tommy Finnerty, who worked with my dad at Westover, with us. And that's just more of an intimate, beautiful ceremony, where Sunday you kind of know like it's coming to an end, because you're there the whole weekend. And as hard as it is to go through it, Monday, that it's back to reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you start to think again, like, oh man, here we go. Like, and so I think Saturday for like me and my mother was beautiful because we had that one more day that we got to look forward to, as weird as that sounds, where you could be with everybody, you know what I mean? Before having to come back to reality and shit, here we go. Like it's time to strap your boots up and live life,
I don't know if you know that. What was the name of the escort you had?
Tommy Finnerty.
Tommy. So we were that was, I don't know if you knew this. That was a three-way parlay. So he was not your original escort.
Really?
No, he was not. There was another guy. We were in a chief to chief together, and the other guy spoke up and about having a friend and this, that, and the other thing. And so I reached out, or maybe Tommy reached out to Matt, and I reached out actually Jim and McLaughlin, who reached out to Matt, and they made it work because that was what was best for your family, right?
Yeah, that was
the other
guy great for my mother. I appreciate that.
You know,
yeah.
And listen, I'm like, I said no, that's the most comfort right there, because again, they work together, and so I said no, I'm gonna stick with my family. The cool thing for me is I got to take those pictures and stuff and kind of support from the backside unofficially, and then again, obviously, you know, and again, be able to help out there. That it was always here's one of those conflicts between when we were in the Basilica. It wasn't a conflict. It was just a priority of standing. Is the honor guard had very specific places they had to stand, right, to do their rotations, right, while we're doing all that lighting. We're not leaving our families. We, in my mind, we're the Secret Service or Men in Black. We're them, we're in the background, but we're not leaving our families. We're just not. So as we're trying to maneuver them up, we're like, you know, trying to get on that wall on the sides so that I have direct eyesight on my family and what's going on, because there's not enough seats at that time. There were so many people, right? So we would give up our seat so the family could sit. We're on the wall, so we're like, but they're jostling back. We never pushed anybody, but there was a lot of chess maneuvering. There was a lot of maneuvering there to get through there, and the both of those, whether back when we were inside or outside, it is just a beautiful moving set, and the music is just stellar, and it does really, really good. All right, let's talk. So let's go leadership wise. What's some of the biggest, without giving away secrets or any conflicts, what's some of the biggest leadership challenges, Ronnie, that you've had, or you and John had during your experience there? What's some of the things that you didn't see coming? Because there's a lot of goofy stuff that I know that's happened. But what was some of the from a leadership perspective, some of the things you really guys had to really focus on?
Yeah, basically, you know, goofy are us, you know, but we always put on the whiteboard in the command center every year, Semper Gumby, you know, always flexible kind of thing. So, you know, we're all Semper Gumby. But in the beginning of the my 20-something year journey, we seemed like we were putting out 1,000 fires an hour in that command center. 1,000 fires an hour. I mean, just stuff that you know, we had a family fly in, and as they get off the plane, they tell that we have honor guard at the airport. From the moment they land, we're there. They don't touch their bags. We get their baggage. The airlines are great. They give us their lounges, and we put them in the lounge. They get something to eat. They go to the bathroom if they need, whatever. So, the folks.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that real quick. I don't mean to cut you off, but I was an 18-year-old kid when my dad died, you know? And we got off the airplane, and I'm trying to take care of my mom. I'm trying to be this big guy now. And from the moment we landed, I felt like a rock star. You know what I mean? Like, you just felt like a VIP. Like, they make you feel.
What year did we honor your dad?
He passed away in 2003, so 04.
04, okay. So at that point, we bring them into the rooms and all. So there's a family of 5 or 6, and they brought grandma with them. Grandma's about 90. And the first thing she says to one of the uniforms is, they wouldn't let me on the plane with my oxygen. I need oxygen. So that call comes to the command post. So we pick up the phone. Somebody needs oxygen. All right, call an ambulance. We don't know what the heck is going on, right? So we get the story. We actually called Gettysburg Hospital through EMS, through Emmitsburg EMS, called Gettysburg Hospital. They got the doctor on call in the emergency room who called mom's doctor in Wisconsin to verify that she is an oxygen patient. With that information, the doctor in Gettysburg wrote the prescription. We sent the unit down to the surgical supply house in Frederick somewhere. And by the time she got where she had to go, there was a bottle and a mask waiting for her. So that's one that sticks out in my head. The other thing you mentioned before, Nick, was about the families. and Matty will attest to this, of course. Every year, the Hadfields and the McCoys show up.
Yeah.
And you have maybe a gal, and many times you have a gal lost her husband. She's got 2 kids, and his family. They're not talking to her. They're at war, but everybody shows up, and everybody believes they're going to accept that flag. So we usually know that ahead of time, and the foundation staff, like Mrs. Tobia and Bev Donald, they usually tip us off, and they say, "Hey, Chief, you got 3 families this year, and the Hatfields and the McCoys are coming." And what's happened in the past, I haven't had the pleasure of having that chat yet, but Chief McGrath before me as the IC, we've had those families come into the command center to a room off to the side separately. Bring the Hadfields in, talk to them, bring the McCoys in, and we tell them, you're on a federal reservation. If you think you're going to make a stink here, you're all going to end up in jail in the federal penitentiary. So don't do it. And we've had that kind of fight. There was actually, the sheriff was called to one of the hotels a few years ago. 2 women were duking it out in the lobby, man, just swinging away. So they got locked up, and boy, I tell you, we're going to write a book at the end of this one. But there's something every year. But in the beginning, like I said, we were putting out 1,000 fires an hour, and then somehow we got smart. And I don't know how smart we are, but we got a little bit smart and started. Believe it or not, Nick, we started to write things down. How about that, right?
I don't know. It's just
write things down. So now, in the middle OOs, right around the time the 2005 to 10 in my operations group, we're showing up for the weekend. We get there Wednesday, and we have task lists already. We already know what we have to do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. What has to be? We're moving everything. We take that campus and we rearrange that entire campus for the weekend, and we put it all back when we're done. So we have work teams, we have operational work teams, we have logistics crews, and all those tasks are laid out now. Of course, we've graduated to smart sheets, spreadsheets. It's all electronic. But now the chief of operations, when he gets in, they bring up the sheet, and he's got 6 or 7 work teams. The guys from Mohegan near you being one of them. We got a bunch, 2 teams out of Jersey. Smithfield, Rhode Island's been coming for 30 years. Smithfield's been set the team for 30 years, and we've got a whole bunch of groups and. They already know 1:00. They send the team over to the chapel because someone from the foundation is going to call at 1:00 and say, "I need 6 guys." We already know that, so they'll be standing there when that person comes out and says, "Oh, you're already here." So we got a lot better, probably over the last 10 years. So we do a lot of pre-planning, a lot of other than pre-planning, really a lot of it, we kind of anticipate the moves, and that's the beauty of that command team getting together throughout the whole year. Right. And we pick apart the year before, we dissect it surgically and say, where did we go wrong? What happened? How can we do it better? And it's a constant improvement. So as good as Tim's experience was in 2004, the experience in 2019 was probably much better even for those folks, because less bumps in the road, less issues. But we do have, when it comes back to your original question about leadership issues, we have our share every year. And once in a while, it's a staff member. Like we said before, we only want the A team there. And sometimes, a guy goes out and has too much adult beverage on Friday night and comes back and he starts a fight with the armed security guards at the gate. That's not a good thing. They carry big weapons. So then we ask that guy to pack up his stuff and go home. I mean, it's pretty easy. So we get our challenges, but everything's handled. So like I said, I got the A team. I'm not worried.
Let me pop in for Matt, because I'm very proud of the fact that Matt has grabbed me a couple of times and said, "Can I see you for a minute?" Which is Latin for, "I'm going to make your weekend exceedingly exciting." But I'm proud of that, frankly. And I actually use some of that in our some of the consulting I've done, because sometimes, as Matt likes to say, firefighters live right. They live complicated lives. Matt, give me a couple of the leadership things you've had to implement or deal with over the years.
Yeah, let me just talk about a couple of things real quick. First and foremost, the reason why the Memorial Weekend is as successful as it is because everybody on Chief Canterman's team is completely professional and in the manner in which they engage with each other. there is a profound level of expectation that everyone's just going to treat each other with respect. And everybody, anybody on the command team could play the role of incident commander, but everybody is willing to be a servant first and foremost, right? We are there to serve, and we are there to serve each other as we serve the families. If it means that the commodes need washed, you'll have 10 people in the command post jump up and want to do that job. There's no bugles, there's no rank, there's no authority. There is only servant leadership. And because those behaviors are modeled by the incident commander and by the command team, it flows through the entire organization. And there can be, no doubt that there is no room. That is a room full of incredibly gifted individuals. I'm the guy that they found under the barrel. Okay. When they looked under the barrel, they found me, right? And they were just gracious enough to let me in. But the reality is that there's an incredibly gifted group of people in that room. That room is full, but there is no room for egos in that room. None. The second thing is, the first thing is servant leadership, a philosophy of how can I serve you? The second thing is clearly defined expectations. Look, I don't know. I've never had the opportunity to sit in on the honor guard orientation because I'm usually a little bit busy that morning trying to corral the 200 cats, associated with the family escorts. But, we love our family escorts so much that we clearly define what the expectations are. And that starts right from the beginning. Just because you apply to be a family escort doesn't mean you're going to get to be a family escort, right? Number one. Number two, before you ever show up, we lay out the expectations. And then when you get there, just in case you didn't read the material that we sent you ahead of time, we go over it about 3 more times. And fundamentally, it is not, we don't stand around and sing Kumbaya and give hugs to everybody. The expectations in the family escort section, as I'm sure they are in the honor guard section, are extremely high. We call this, and Chief Canterman will know where this comes from, this is the varsity team. Okay? That's right. If you want to understand, what it means to be part of the family Memorial Weekend, it is the varsity team. I don't say that egotistically. I say that so that you understand how that comes about. And it comes about by making our expectations way up high. And the one thing you got to know about firefighters is if you define the expectations, they will do everything in their power to exceed them.
Absolutely.
And fundamentally, we don't want to let anybody down. We don't want to let the families down. We don't want to let Chief Canterman down. We don't want to let Chief Sarnicki down. We don't want to let the foundation down. We don't want to let the entire fire service down. But most importantly, we do not want to let the families down. And so we set those expectations very high. Our leadership lessons are very easy. And a friend of mine, one of the people on my command staff, made an offhand comment one day to another member of the command staff from my section. And that member of the command staff looked him dead square in the eye and said, I'm going to miss you next year.
Well, seriously. And I'll give you another example. Something bad happened. And to this day, I don't know what the bad happened was. I've never seen this man upset, particularly on Saturday night. Saturday night, usually we're just tuning up for Sunday. It's been a great day. Something bad happened. I've never seen him stuttering pissed. He was stuttering pissed. I didn't know who was going away. I can tell you this much. Half that crowd was pissed at whoever pissed him off because they broke the trust. They broke the trust. And we don't know. He didn't share. But it was obvious, and he said something like, "We've had an event. It'll never happen again." And everybody in that room completely understood. And we didn't know what happened, but we were upset that it happened. Because that's where we're at. And again, that's across the board. I want to make sure the same thing Matt said. That's honor guard. That's the survivors. That's the people taking whatever it is. Everybody and their brother. All they care about, and this year is 215 people. That's what their focus is on, till they get back in their car. They're focused on that 200, and it doesn't have to be my person either. Since I'm on a roll, particularly as an old fart, I end up getting easier details than some of the young kids with where they have 8 little ones running around. Guess what? If my person's good, I'm helping them.
You know, Nikki, if I could jump in for a second, the years that the president showed up, whether it was Bush or Obama, but specifically President Bush in 2007, it was a 95-degree weekend. So the Secret Service gets in early and they're scoping everything out. And we're working with the Secret Service, and I will tell you, they were an absolute pleasure. Those folks were just, but what they said to us, like we met with them, literally, we had 5 meetings a day. 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, noon, every 2 hours we'd meet with them. And then the White House staff showed up, and then we'd let them duke it out. And the White House wants him to walk up from the right because it's his better side. And the Secret Service says, no, he needs to walk up from the left so we can watch him. And they always win. Secret Service wins. But by Friday, one of the Secret Service, the guy in charge of the details, his name was Paul. He said, we realized that we've heard one thing out of you guys the whole time. All the meetings we've had, the last 25 meetings in the last 4 days, we hear the word family out of your mouth 100 times at every meeting. So it kind of struck them. It finally struck them the real meaning of this, because we kept telling them, this isn't just another appearance by the number one guy. This is a whole different thing. This isn't a parade, and it's not a block party, and it's not a political thing. We're honoring our war dead here, and they heard the word family. He said we heard the word family 1,000 times in the last 3 days. I said, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. Let me finish my story if I can.
Yeah.
On Sunday, and Matty, I don't know if you remember this, but on Sunday, the Secret Service agents walked in to the command center, and they were wearing black mourning bands on their Secret Service shields that day. And then the Maryland State Police and the Frederick County Sheriffs, they looked at that and said, we're in. And of course, there's always a box of those laying around. Every law enforcement guy jumped on the wagon, and they really, truly understood what we were doing that weekend. And I will tell you that when they walked in as a group and we saw that, we all got the chills, I got to tell you. And I stood up and I said to Paul, is it all right to give you a hug, or you're going to kill me? I gave him a handshake and a hug, and it was just one of those moments. I mean, that they got it. They realized what the hell was going on and what we do every single year, year in, year out. They got it.
And I just want to share an impact. It was the year Kevin Apuzio. So the year Kevin Apuzio went on the wall, right? President Bush.
2007 when the president came.
Right. But that was just. Not in 2000, right? 2007.
He was killed in 2006. Yep.
Right. So the President Bush comes up and he's doing his thing. You remember it. Well, you may not have seen it. He knows what I'm talking about. He's doing his thing. All of a sudden, he's prompter, and he locked up. The president locked up. He literally lost his track, lost his thoughts. I think you saw a young survivor with a baby. That's what I think happened.
Probably.
Something triggered him. He leaned in. He put his hand on the podium, and later they told us that's when he's going off script, is when he's thinking for himself.
He leans in, right? They told us that. Yep.
He leans in, and he just kept saying that him and his wife were so proud to be there. Now his wife wasn't even there, but how they were so proud, and this went on. He's like the tape recorder got stuck, and then all of a sudden he kind of caught it, and then back to the teleprompter, right?
Well, there was a double whammy for him. Number one, it was a 95-degree day. It was hotter than hell, and it's emotional. And he's sad, listen, he's a father. He had kids, you know, and so, you know, if he looked into the audience and saw a young woman with little kids, it probably caught him over here in the neck, you know. So you know, he's human. Hey, look, everybody else is human, you know.
And just to show how human he was, right? Tony will know this one, right? Just to show how human he was. So first of all, he stood out there on the deck, 95 degrees, and greeted every single family.
Sure,
every single family, right? Not Republicans, not Democrats, not independents. He greeted every single American in that circumstance, right? Now, we're going through the memorial, we're going through the service, right? And it's hot. It's really hot. One of the honor guard guys is standing up front. He's been there for way too long, right? So unfortunately, he falls out. Now, he stood there until he fell out because he was told you cannot move while the president is in front of you. So he didn't.
Oh my God.
So he literally stood there until he fell out. The president of the United States looks at this guy. First of all, he tried to reach out and catch him, which was unto itself was kind of funny. He's like, that guy there needs something to drink. And we're like, yeah, yes, sir, Mr. President. You know, we'll take care of it. Of course, a group of guys comes along and carts him off and, you know, gets him the care that he needs. But he was just as human as any other person.
It really was.
But it was still about the families.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was still about the families.
So he's doing it. Oh, go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tony.
So when they had the original plans, right, they had the IAP set up as if POTUS wasn't coming. Then once he came, it was, rip that IAP up, had to write a whole new one. But we were all told in brief, because there were certain of us that were allowed inside the tent. And actually, Matt was allowed right next to the president. One, a few that were within the 10 feet, but most of us that were in the pen, that were ushers and everything else, we had to have special designations, special background checks. But we were told, if the president's in motion and you're in motion, you're going to have a little red dot on your chest and stop moving. Okay. We're all told that the president is going to do his speech and then he's going to sit down. He's not going to be within any interaction with the family. He's not going to be within 10 feet of anybody. You know, stay there. I'm standing next to one of the Secret Service agents, and the president's doing his speech. And as Matt, Chief Toby was saying, he went off script, and all of a sudden he goes, "And I'm here for you, and I love you all, and I just want you to know, if you need a hug, if you want to shake my hand, I want to help give you your flag. I'm going to be right there." And the Secret Service agent just goes, "Oh shit!" I'm like, "Does he do this everywhere we go? He does this." An amazing thing just to see that. You know, I've never interacted with it before. I've been in a presidential detail, to have that human side of somebody come out at an event like that was just amazing.
You know, Tony, you talk about that. I was one of the lucky 10. They picked 10 of us to meet with the president afterwards. So I met the president after the ceremony back behind Building S, and we shook hands and took a picture together. You know, and they mail you a beautiful shot with a little card from the president. It's framed and all that stuff. But in the picture, you can see it. He was wearing a navy blue suit, and his entire suit, it looked like he dove into first base head first. And what it was women's makeup all over, because when they went up to meet with him, the women were crying on him. He was full of makeup. His whole jacket was just full of women's makeup from them crying on his shoulder. And there was a couple of times where we kind of caught him on camera, because we're watching it from the command center on closed circuit. And you could see he's sucking the apple. You know, he came close 3 or 4 times to breaking down that day. So listen, win, lose, or draw, even back then with politics, we told the whole staff, we don't care what your political affiliations are. The seal of the president of the United States is going to be up on that podium. You will be on your best behavior. We don't care who you are. We will personally drag you out of here and beat you across the street there in the cornfield, you know? So, but everybody was good. It's a defining moment for those families. For those families, when the president shows up, man, whatever your affiliation is, the seal of the president of the United States was up in front of that room, and that representing guy took the time to come and see you and wish you, you know, the best of life after a tragedy. So it's defining for all of us, you know, frankly, to tell you the truth. Hey, while I got the floor, Nick, I'm going to have to bail out in a couple of minutes. I got to make a couple of phone calls tonight. Memorial weekend is next week, you know. We're busy.
Yeah, that's why we're here. I appreciate that. I'll tell you what happened to us. So I'm sitting behind Danny Krasinski, right? And all of a sudden, the president starts talking about Kevin.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I see Danny's shoulders start. Then I start crying. So then I lean over to Mr. Apuzio and I said, "Did you know about this?" "Oh yeah, they called us 2 weeks ago."
Yeah.
Here's my moment from right there. There you go. Oh no, you can't see it. There you go.
There it is.
There it is. Kinda, almost.
Yeah, not too bad. You look good. You had a little more hair. It wasn't that gray. It looks good, you know?
All right. Matt, any other leadership stuff?
I think he's feeding the dog. But while it's quiet here, Nick, I'm gonna need to bail out. But I want to thank you and the JLN crew for asking me to come on. Like I said, the Memorial Weekend is next week. Hey, Chief Perez, how are you? Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you, Willie. Chief, you got your little
Hey, Chief Ron, I got a buddy that wants to say hi to you. Maybe.
Does he have a snake in his boot? That's Chief Perez from Yukon. That's Tony Ruggiero's boss. Willie and I met a couple of times. We did some work together, and I bought him that because he goes out west and he's known as Woody. What's your nickname? What did I nickname you?
Woody.
Yeah, the Puerto Rican cowboy, remember?
Yeah.
Good to see you, Chief. Very good to see you.
Nice. This is a great job you guys did. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm going to need
a little bit emotional thinking about it.
But next weekend, we'll be doing our thing in Emmitsburg, and we know that whoever can't be there from the fire service is going to be thinking about us and supporting us. So we'll see you soon. Most importantly, be safe. Take care of yourselves. Thank you.
I'll see you next week.
Okay.
Tony, so leadership stuff, things that you've seen either you've had to do, or whether it was Jimmy or whether it was Tim.
Chief Kerriman hit it on the head when they said that, the kind of motto of the weekend is Semper Gumby. There's so many moving parts that not everything's going to go perfect. And there's so many, even with POTUS coming, right? That wasn't months in advance or 6 months in advance. That was a couple of weeks before them saying, "Oh, by the way, he's coming." And now we got to start planning for it. And the team, the overhead team that did that did great, but they had everything set up for that weekend. They had to start from scratch with certain stuff. We've had weather that's come in that now, instead of doing it at the Memorial that we're comfortable doing it at, well, now we're doing it at Mount St. Mary's College and their gymnasium. So now you're kind of having to switch roles a little bit with stuff. We talk about ICS on emergency incidents, but ICS isn't just about emergency incidents. You can do it on events like this, and that makes things run so smooth, as having that command structure of group supervisors that are in charge of stuff. Having those 204s of knowing who's assigned to me and our roles and responsibilities to be able to plug people in. It's one of the things you have to earn your spot with stuff that we do. It's not just it's your first time coming to Memorial Weekend and you're automatically going to be a group supervisor for one of the details. You kind of got to work through it and earn it, because you have to have done it once or twice to know everything that goes into that event. And that's how we plug people up. So there's succession planning that needs to get built in. And that's what we've done. Even with Arlington, we had done that, where you went from being one of the people in line that helped march the group up to you're in the front where the tune guards are, where you're the one that's their cue for when they're supposed to snap to attention and when they're supposed to start marching off. So then eventually you're the assistant, you're the deputy group supervisor, you're the actual group supervisor. So we're working through those. So it's multiple years to get through. So you have people that have some experience and is not thrown into it. It helps being surrounded by people that get it. It's something you can't teach. It's something that you're not going to be able to read about in a book. It's something that's an internal thing. People to understand that whole service above self, and that it's not about you. It's not about you looking good. It's not about you getting in front of the camera or getting to shake hands with family and stuff. It's putting the families first and understanding that you're going to do whatever it is that's asked of you. Whether it's going to get a cooler of ice for a family member, or as the chief said, escorting someone to a restroom. There's no such task. It's stuff that needs to get done, and it's an important part of it. And it's amazing to see people from so much life that just show up that weekend and it's like your family again, are there just to help people. And they don't care what role they get, whether it's a big role or a small role. And sometimes just that humility is something that gets lost on people because you're so much about wanting to be, a top dog or something, that just being the grunt is just as important.
And you may even have an idiot that shows up and didn't even sign up and just shows up and gets put to work too. Just allegedly, I heard a rumor that might have happened one day. Tim, I just feel like I'm leaving you out.
No, I'm good. I'm taking it all in.
Okay. So I think we're actually, amazingly, and I knew this was going to happen, it's actually almost 8:30. So we've actually gone 90 minutes. And that's how this show works, is we just rock it through stuff and we share stuff. So why don't we do this? Let's open it up to the audience and see if anyone has any questions. I see Chief Perez just turned back on. I didn't know. Will, you have a question, or you're just?
No. I've been actually listening to the whole thing, but I didn't want you guys to see me stuffing my face and eating at the same time, and drinking a beer. But no, great discussion. Kind of emotional actually thinking about it, and I like Chief Tobia was saying. I learned a lot today. I didn't really realize the intricacies of everything. And I know you guys were saying about the people who actually escort the families. So as Tony can tell you, I think methodically, and as you're drawing the picture for me, I'm like, wow, I didn't have a clue how complicated this whole thing is, but I'm not surprised. And that people take time out, like even my own Captain Ruggiero, who takes their time and goes there and does this for the families, is just wonderful to know that is happening. So I want to thank you guys a lot. And I learned a lot today. And now I think it's one of the things that's in my bucket list before I retire.
We'll get you the email for next year.
Yep, because I have to do it before and I teach at the National Fire Academy. I'll be there in November for 2 weeks teaching, but I've never seen this, and I've always wanted to do it, but it's one of my last things I got to do on my bucket list.
Well, one of the things, Matt could answer the question. I was going to ask Ronnie. So we usually put 4,000 or 5,000, if you take all the families, all the survivors, we put like 5,000 people on the campus, right?
Yeah, that's correct. In a normal year, there is about 5,000 people at the National Memorial Service on Sunday morning.
That includes that, right? So now this year,
everybody.
This year that'll be bigger, right?
So this year it's actually really, really different, Chief. I got to tell you, this event is being held under profound protocols just to be able to honor these firefighters. A lot of the families have never had their firefighter honored because they either died, after, in 2019 they died, and then COVID hit, and that just put an end to everything. And of course, ever since then, we've been dealing with that. So this year's service is actually not open to the public. The only people who are attending this year are the families and the fire service personnel who are directly involved in the delivery of the weekend. So it's actually going to be a very intimate event this year, still nationally televised, still available to be live streamed, still can be watched, but this is not a normal year under any circumstances.
And Nick, you're right. If I do 2022, I would hope that we're finally past COVID, because I actually want to witness the place crowded. I want to feel that power. And not that we wouldn't feel the power this year. Of course we would. But there's nothing like having 5,000 people there and you feel that energy. So
I'll tell you what's interesting. When you look out on the deck is where what we call the area where all the survivors are, right? They're all in there. The escorts will not sit down. The escorts will not sit down until either one of our branch directors tells us to sit down, or it's obvious that we're about to imminently to start, because it's water, it's tissues, it's blankets, it's 2 years ago was rain parkers. It's just we're literally the same concept is what could they possibly need, and they have all this stuff already in bags that have been provided to them, but we're just like extra water. Do you need a blanket? Or I mean, we literally rated the fire academy's blankets, the laundry, a couple years ago because all of a sudden it got wet and cold, and we're just wrapping everybody up that we can. And it, as fast as that stuff can get brought out, it's being utilized. And again, it's all hands on deck. Everybody's in the same mode for the same stuff.
So I do have a question for the team. Where does the funding come from? The minimal funding that is there, is that from all the fundraisers?
So that's a good question. It's actually a combination of sources, right? So the Department of Justice provides some funding through the Bureau of Justice Assistance. A significant amount of the funding does come from corporate sponsors and private donations. There are, throughout the course of the year, there are fire departments across the country that hold events to support the foundation and raise money for the foundation. But, interestingly enough, the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation was created by congressional act, but not automatically funded by the U.S. Congress. There is also some funding that comes from the United States Fire Administration because they host the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial, and they do a tremendous job. The U.S. Fire Administrator, the National Fire Academy Superintendent are tremendous supporters of the foundation and of the memorial, and they are the caretakers of the memorial. And you talk about men and women working behind the scenes. The staff at the NFA, and I'm glad you asked this question, Chief. I really appreciate it. The staff at the NFA are there all weekend, and they are 100% behind the scenes, and you never see them, and the weekend could not happen without them.
Absolutely.
So you talk about, it's one thing we talk about being at the tip of the spear and the criticality of being in the position of responsibility, but none of that happens without a foundational support. And that foundational support comes from the NFA and the U.S. Fire Administration. So I really appreciate you asking that question.
And we do have, in fact, we need to get one. I think we had one in Connecticut. There are golf tournaments at the FDIC and at Firehouse and at the New York Chiefs and all these Chiefs conferences all over the country. They'll do a stairs climb. They were in the oil stadium there at FDIC. So they go up and then they just stay in the middle and go all the way around till they hit the 110. New York, they did it at the Syracuse Dome. I'm sure they did it at the Firehouse. There's also, so they did a movie night at the FDIC and raffle as a fundraiser. So there's always some kind of effort there to raise money. But it is just it's an amazing thing that takes place, and we're just real excited to be able to get there. There's a lot of people upset last year, even though they understood why. It's just a program. You're programmed to go there in October and plan on being there.
Thank you, guys.
Any other questions from anybody? All right, let's close it out then. Matt, why don't you go first?
Yeah, Chief, thanks so much. First and foremost, I just want to thank Tim for being on here tonight. We talk about sacrifice and the kinds of things that are involved, and none of us knows that sacrifice more than Tim does. And so, I just wanted to say thanks for being on the call, brother. I really appreciate that a lot.
It was an honor tonight.
And it's I think as much as anything, if we can play even the smallest role in helping families on their journey to know that they are not alone and that they will never be alone, not as long as the foundation is there. The one thing about the foundation that I want to just reinforce is the true mission of the foundation is to truly help families. The National Memorial Service is an awe-inspiring event, but it is not the primary focus of the foundation. The real genesis of the foundation comes in the work that's done by the family services, family program section in helping these families, in developing programs to literally, help these families rebuild their lives and move forward. It is truly awe-inspiring to see families who come for their loved one to be honored and then return several years later to help other families on the journey, because they've gotten to a place of healthy living where they can say with surety that the darkness does lift, that there is life, to continue to be lived, and that, that they can emerge from that. But the one thing that spending time as a fire chief, I'll say this, the one thing that I have gotten more than anything else, and this is what I have gotten from getting to be part of the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial, is it makes my focus on firefighter safety razor sharp, because you need only spend 5 minutes with the families of a fallen firefighter to understand the obligation that we have to do everything possible to reduce every preventable line of duty death, every single one. So
Amen, Chief.
It is about taking, our firefighter brothers and sisters who have died in the line of duty are calling to us from beyond. They are calling to us to not travel the same path. And it is up to us to hear that. And I think that's what, at least for me, that's what I hear during the Memorial Weekend, is hear the voices of those who have gone before and listen to those voices. So thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Or actually, not a couple weeks. One. I'll show up. I will, and I'll bring my badge this time. All right, Tony.
The foundation does a lot of great things. The thing that we tout, taking care of our own, and there's a lot of different ways of doing that. The Memorial Weekend is just one of them. It's a big one that we do, but the wellness symposium they do every year for survivors. There's Albro kids camps that I've been very fortunate and lucky to be part of. The beginning of it, where we have camps for kids 4 to 6 year old, and then from 7 to 17 year olds. That's a bereavement camp. That's kids that are all children of fallen firefighters. That's embodies the spirit of Hal Bruno, who was very important to the foundation. You have the young adult camp that they do. There's the scholarship that Matt had talked about earlier, the scholarship funding that they do for survivors to continue their education. There's the Chief to Chief network. Now there's an IC to IC network that just got established. There's the education that the foundation puts out. You name it, there's just so much stuff that they need our support. But the thing I said, it's that support for the families is not just that one time a year to say, yep, we're doing our annual. It doesn't stop there. It's throughout it's calling them on holidays or checking in on them. It's making sure that we truly never forget, because once you stop saying that name, right, you do forget them. So it's keeping up the memorials back home. It's chiefs, and I'm very fortunate that greatly supports my passion with the honor guard, and it allows me to be involved with the foundation. So is even at that point for chiefs to be like Matt, that support their guys to do this stuff, because the foundation can't do it without the boots on the ground to be able to do this stuff. So it's multifaceted that gets to be part of that. And one thing I want to do before Chief Nick, thank you so much for letting me be a part of this and be able to share a little bit of my passion for this. But I want to embarrass Matt a little bit. I've become very good friends with Matt over the years, and his wife Jeannie, and Timmy, one of our friends, Eric Rowley, that was deployed overseas with the Air Force, came back from Afghanistan a number of years ago. He was stuck at BWI Airport, trying to figure out a way. He called me up and says, "Hey, I'm coming home to surprise my family. I'm being stuck in the airport. I'm just gonna sleep in the airport." The USL was up and closed. I called up Matt. "Hey, can you help me out? Like, can you get him in the firehouse somewhere? I just really don't want him his first back in the States to be sleeping in an airport." So Matt goes, "I got you." Finds him in Eric in the airport, picks him up, brings him to his own house, stays up late at night to help Eric kind of de-stress and talk about some of the things that he did. Let his dog stay in the room with Eric. So wasn't alone. Cooked them breakfast in the morning, which Eric said was really weird having people cook them breakfast first thing. And then helped him get to the airport. If that's neighborhood, I don't know what else. So Matt, thank you very much for that. It's something he has never forgotten. His family's never forgotten. Just talks about the type of people that Matt and Jeannie are.
Thanks for saying that, brother.
Service over self. Timmy, bring us home.
So it was a real honor to be here. And first off, I want to say that Tony, you're smarter than I give you credit for. Because I think you knew Chief Perez was going to be watching. You threw that administrative day off out there pretty quick. So I give you credit for that one, Tony. Nice job. But what it really shows is that, that we're all on the job, whether you're a career fireman or volunteer. And some guys get it and some guys don't. And the guys that don't get it will never have the experience, and they should. But everybody that's involved in this weekend gets it. And it's that simple. They just get it. And being on the job now and being a survivor and have gone through it, it really, it's touching. And there's no words to describe it. And, just being here tonight was a real honor. And you guys are doing a killer job, and you guys do an amazing job. And, you guys may not get the recognition you need, but there's a lot of families out there that are really, really fortunate that you guys put so much time and effort into what you guys do. So for my family, thank you guys very much. And it was an honor to be here tonight.
Thank you. And I got to tell you and Tony, your dad will be proud. Absolutely.
Thanks, Chief.
Give me a minute.
What, you got flowers in there or something?
Yeah. The cat went by and I got some hair in my throat, I think. All right, it's time to shameless.
Hey, Nick. Chief Nick.
Huh?
I'll make you laugh. Hey, Chief Matt, thank you. Tony, Captain Tony, now you know why I bitch at everybody about wearing their gear and their zipper. Thank you, Chief Matt, for supporting me with that. I even get mad at them if their zipper is not all the way up at a fire scene. Don't open up your zipper and look like you're
I mentioned this to I had Denny Compton on 2 weeks ago, and in the Chief to Chief, over a very short period, I had two guys, Kevin Apuzio with Danny Krasinski being one of them, and then a guy and a girl in Green Bay, and one made it out and one didn't. Cellar fires. They were collapses where they were making the stretcher. In Kevin's case, they were actually carrying the victim out, and the floor collapsed. I got to tell you, I'm still a nut about cellars. Occupied, not occupied, whatever. Particularly, I had 250-year-old houses, right? Balloon frame. I was a nut. The first thing I had the fast captain do every fire, if I had a basement, was go check that freaking basement out. Because I had listened to these guys, and particularly the Kevin Apuzio with Danny Krasinski, and again, they were doing everything right. They actually had a fast team, and there'd be 4 kids dead if it wasn't for that, right? Or 3 kids dead if it wasn't for that. They pulled 2 kids out. Unfortunately, Kevin and the victim were under the sofa, under the floor. But I was a raving lunatic about that. And so I was gonna say thank you guys so much tonight. I really appreciate this. This is really awesome and way more than I expected. Excellent. That's what we like to hear. So shameless plugs. Again, we started this process as a training when COVID broke out because firefighters couldn't go to the firehouse, right? So we did that every week. Every third one was hazmat, and then we did fires and tactics and safety. We did that for several months, and then we went to a once a month venue. And then that's led to critical conversations. You can find this if you go to Spotify, give us a couple days. You can find this. You can find, we had the director of OSHA on. You can find Denny Compton's last week. That was an awesome one. We had the superintendent of the fire academy, Eric's the new superintendent. That was an awesome one. So again, they're all on there. Matter of fact, I had to take a trip today down to New York. So I popped on Spotify in my car and I listened to one of them that we did a while ago on mental health. We had done a whole series on mental health. But so we'll be back. Let's see. So next week, next month is Reggie Freeman talking about East Coast, West Coast. Then it's Kevin Koobs from Getting Salty talking about being the senior man and surviving the Father's Day explosion and some survivor's guilt because he traded off his spot on 9/11. And then at the end is Chief John Sulka. And I didn't say Battalion Chief John Sulka, I said Chief John Sulka, because we're going to be talking about, he's a volunteer chief up in Orange County in New York. We're going to talk about recruitment and retention. That's something that's important to both of us. Next year, we've got Jason from Fire Department Chronicles coming on. We've got the Cancer Support Network coming on. And there's one more, and it just leaves my mind right now, but we'll have it figured out by next February. We are still looking for help. We are looking for help with confined space rescue work, tactical rescue type work. If you have folks that are industrial change or trained or safety folks, we have all kinds of stuff, and all the power plants are kicking back up, and we're starting to do COVID screening again. We have a crew up in Maine right now doing COVID screening, and we'll have another crew starting next week, I think next week, out in Rhode Island doing COVID screening. So, $20 an hour, take somebody's temperature and ask 4 questions. It's hard to beat. So again, if you have folks that are interested in that, just look on the website, get a hold of me, and we'll get you into the ring. I just want to really thank the guests tonight. This meant so much to me. I think Chief Perez, thank you for your kind words, because this is what we wanted to do. People know about it. They may see the book, but they don't know about it. And God forbid you ever need it. And listen, if you're, and we have had people that have come along and asked to come on, and if we can fit you in. Again, that's not my decision, that's Matt's decision, and more importantly, Jeannie's decision. But again, that you never know. You only have to go once, and you'll start coming back on your own to sit in the audience. Yeah, that's the other thing is, other than this year, you don't actually need to come and be an escort. You can come and just open to the public. And there's groups of firefighters that have been coming for years that just show up on Sunday. They haven't missed them. And the campus is open on normally on Sunday. You just have to sit a little bit further back. You're not in the box, on deck, as it were. All right, folks, thank you so much. Please stay safe. All right. And I'll see a couple of you guys, I guess in like a week and a half. I don't know. Pretty soon. We'll see.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you guys. Thanks for the invitation.
Nice
Thanks,
meeting
guys.
you guys.
Thank you, Timmy. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
All right.
Hey, send your, make sure we have your emails. Never mind.
Yeah, we've got those.
For those that are still, if they're still on, if you send your email into the chat box, Jamie will make sure we capture that, and we'll be able to send you a certificate for participating tonight. I forgot about that.
Hey,
All right.
hey, Tony. Hey, Tony. Not for nothing.
Here we go.
Not for nothing. I totally forgot about that time. Like, I'm not kidding you. That I picked up your buddy at the airport. Like, now that you're saying it, like I remember it now. But like, boom, totally forgot about that. But if it made an impact on him, that's an awesome thing. But that's awesome. Yeah, I'm old.
You've made impacts on a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm just getting old. That's all.
Yeah,
Timmy,
but
you
listen,
take
you're
care. We'll
funny.
see you soon.
You finally got your 5th plunger. Aren't you lucky?
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, I'll see you guys in a week.
All right, man.
All right, stay safe, guys.
Bye-bye.